athletes, today we're talking about carbohydrate loading. Typically, carbohydrate loading is used for endurance events, but we'll give you a few tips throughout this video for other sports where adding more carbohydrates in the days leading up to an event may be beneficial. So, why do we recommend athletes carb load? During exercise, carbohydrate is burned at a greater rate than the body's ability to digest, break down, and use carbohydrates from food. So the body needs other forms of available fuel. This is where glycogen comes in, the storage form of carbohydrate that increases following carbohydrate loading and helps you maintain energy levels and delay fatigue during an event. A typical endurance carb loading protocol involves increasing your carbohydrate intake for 24 to 48 hours prior to an event. Recommendations for carb loading suggest 8 to 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight per day. The target you choose within this range will depend on a few things, like your baseline carb intake, how much time you have to practice before your event, and the intensity and duration of your event. No doubt you're thinking, oh wow, that's a lot of carbohydrate. But for endurance or ultra-endurance athletes, it's essential to eat a lot of carbs to maximize your glycogen stores and maintain performance. Increasing carbs in the lead up to an event can also be beneficial for non-endurance sports. For example, if you have a carnival or tournament where there are limited opportunities to fuel across the day, or your event starts early in the morning, it can be beneficial to add more carbs the day before. But you may just add a couple of carb snacks, increase your carb portions at dinner, and add a carb dessert, rather than following a full carb loading protocol. So let's go back to the typical carb loading protocol and break it down with a practical example. If you weigh 70 kilos, to carb load, you'll need between 560 to 840 grams of carbs per day. But if your daily intake of carbs is currently 350, you shouldn't aim for the top end of this range. Carb loading is not just about eating more carbs. There are other key principles that are important to adhere to. Firstly, focus on simple, easy to digest carbs. This means swapping from grainy bread to white bread, brown rice to white rice, Vita wheats to Cruskets, and rolled oats to Nutri-Grain. It can be difficult to solely rely on whole foods during carb loading, so we also recommend including refined discretionary items like lollies, adding honey, jam instead of your peanut butter, and consuming a carb-rich drink like juice, cordial, and sport drinks with meals and snacks. Secondly, reduce portions of fiber, protein, and fat to allow more room for the carbs. For example, reduce the portions of vegetables and chicken or steak at dinner while increasing rice or pasta. Or swap from whole fruit to dried fruit. Remove your handful of nuts and replace it with an LCM bar. Thirdly, practice. All too often we've heard horror stories of carb loading gone wrong when athletes haven't practiced their carb loading plan. Trial your plan at least a couple of times before your big event.